This teen account was open when my children were minors. This account has been tampered with, has been duplicated, and actually they have been laundering money through this account with additional debit cards that they have received in their mail. They added their place of residential address from the federal funded program, Presidential Garden Apartments. I have actually reported this to the police, and they have not succeeded to investigate. This account has been used to fraudulently collect PCA hours according to the statement, and that's the only statement that I have that I'm able to see, because they have different logins to this account. The account actually has 3 different logins, and if I go to a more secure computer lab like the library, I can access more details to this account. It actually has a high interest, as you can see, because there's money going in to this account that I'm unable to see. I don't know what these people are depositing into this account. They have actually tampered with my taxes, my kids' benefits, my DTA. They have duplicated different accounts, including requesting debit cards for their convenience, so that they can actually access the account, withdraw money, deposit money, as you can see in some of these statements. When I open the account in a more secure computer, like the computer at the library, I can see large amounts of money being deposited, $5,000, that I'm unaware of where it's coming from. Also, the account has Facebook pays from the account. 2 people in there actually have added their names. Emily Robles, unaware who Emily Robles is. She receiving about I will estimate like $40 on a Facebook pay for some odd reason. And I cannot see this from my phone, as my phone has been wiretapped. It actually, these people are surveillancing illegally, so they have access to all my records, all my documents. They had tampered with my mail. They had also used my mail address to collect fraudulently DTA for an account number of children. Like 3 children were receiving vouchers when I was trying to find out from services that were supposed to provide services for my family, and they offered to get a voucher. He also had a voucher in place. I never apply for PCA hours. I will never do that because my son is too young. 1, he's too young. I didn't need PCA hours because he had a voucher that was provided to us through the Lawrence area child care circuit. And also I was part of a program called MRC DTA, which would provide me with services to gain employment. This program actually honored my son with a voucher at the time, and these people were basically applying for services, collecting fraudulent benefits using probably my social security, gaining access through, the management office being aware from the HUD funded federal program housing that they were recording me illegally. So obviously they were breaching rules and regulations, and that's a violation, the quiet rule. And this is a two-state consent, which is you need to be informed if you're going to be recorded. It's illegal. It's a two-state consent, and if you do not consent to being recorded, it's a violation of your HIPAA, breach of confidentiality, and on and on and on, giving these people access to all my information, all my, my kids' social securities, all, they were basically using my address to collect DTA, which I have shared in different videos, that they were, overseeing the council in the community, and they were the vice president of the council while they were actually collecting fraudulent DTA. I have actually gone ahead and reported this to DTA. They have a fraudulent line where you can actually call and make a report. But the fact that I actually being surveillance illegally, and I'm also wiretap, it's impossible to know if DTA has resolved the matter. I actually been dealing with identity theft. My kids' last names were stolen, and they registered children that they brought from the Dominican Republic, I'm assuming, and they actually gave them my oldest son's last name. And I also have tried to report this to the police without no success on them. Their part on trying to make further investigation to find the information that is necessary to capture these people from duplicating pages, bank accounts, DTA, benefit apps, all that stuff, so that they stop accessing people's benefits, and they continue to live in housing. They live with their, significant others, who I'm assuming, and I'm hoping that they actually work, and they have their own income, other than, tampering with people's mails and duplicating these accounts, and accessing people's banks to, drive luxury cars and take expensive, trips and live luxury, lifestyles, because basically that actually gives them access to money laundering, washing money, not reporting money that they're receiving, not reporting, the total amount of people that live in their households, including significant others, and, which, all of that changes the amount of rent that you pay on a monthly basis. Some of these people, if they actually are unable to work, they can actually pay $25 a month. And basically they have all day to plot to, create scenes and call the police and to their households, and then dispatch them to other people's houses while they're trying to make a living. And that's me. I have worked for 45 years living in this, not 35 years living in this country. I have always reported my income to the IRS. I have always account for the income coming in. But if I am receiving any income that I cannot see. Somebody's surveillancing me illegally without my consent. They have access to my accounts. They have access to be able to duplicate account accesses and, tamper with my wages. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to report that income, and I have proof. I have evidence that I have collected through the years, trying to, get the police to take part on looking into this, because in reality is a big issue in the housing projects at this time, where people are plotting against others, and management taking one-sided side without gathering the correct information, and unfortunately is leaving people evicted and on the streets, and including being stalking, people getting stalked by people from their community, which is another violation. I have gone as far as going to the district court, and these people have been charged with stalking, crime report, force report, and unfortunately, they're still walking, and I'm still dealing with identity theft, stolen wages and discrepancies in my wages, and so on and on and on, without being able to get any resolution. So I have turned to a YouTube channel to actually try to, share some of the information. Maybe people can give me some, feedback. I don't know, constructive criticism. I'm welcome to anything that you have that can actually help me and help others not go through this ordeal. At the end, staying without a roof over your head and unable to be able to get another apartment because of these evictions that are wrongfully, and basically discriminating, while you're being harassed and you're being attacked by people. It's and then you have no proper lawyers or attorneys or anything to be able to, get yourself out of this, especially with an stolen identity. It's just, it's inhumane. Unfortunately, these people get away with this on a daily basis, doing this since I moved there. I feel like the management office could have been a little more supportive, and they could have actually investigated a little further, because now it looks like they were part of the crime, unfortunately, because these people are so good at it, and I gotta give them credit. They're good at it. They're hackers. They have their significant others who, basically, not sure what their background is. Maybe maybe they're ITs and they have a lot of experience, and they can actually put it to this, to actually hack people's accounts, duplicate people's accounts, tamper with people's mail, and do all kinds of schemes that actually leave others disadvantaged for a proper, roof over their heads while they're living in subsidized housing, hiding information, including income that they're not reporting, because they're actually washing this money through somebody else's account. Because if they're not leaving their home, where are they getting all this money? Like, if you are driving a luxury car, how do you prove that where's the income that you have to be driving a $50,000-$60,000 bike, or a $60,000, $80,000 car. You don't work. You don't leave the house. You need accommodations for your hearing because you can't leave your household. You have 5 children. You've been living there for 28 years. Well, that's what I gather from them, reporting in the courtroom. And all I have to say is I've been working my whole life since I was 15 years old. I am 50 now, and I am basically at a point where I have a $30,000 student loan debt that I don't seem to understand or be able to finish my degrees and, my whole life devoted to doing the right thing in the United States, living the American dream. I've been a homeowner. I've been, I have worked in the field for 30 years, human services. I have studied every single major from human services to psychology to criminal justice to forensic science. And I'm here living out of my car. Unfortunately, because I went from a DV situation to a domestic violence shelter to doing everything I had to do for my children to then, a transitional housing here in Lawrence, Mass. And, with my children. And then I started to notice that, my kids are not receiving proper transportation. Somebody's tampering with my kids' transportation and my kids' services after living the YWCA. Kudos to them for properly, transitioning us and helping us get to a different level. And then we get to transitional housing and, there's no proper transportation for my kids who have disabilities and they have a full IEP. And, I didn't think anything of it because the person, who did the intake actually is the person who transitioned me to this housing project, and she is the financial department that runs, both programs. And there's a breach there. And then I didn't realize, at the time, it takes time for you, especially being a domestic violence victim. You're trying to get back on your feet. Your mind is foggy. You're trying to survive. And all of a sudden you realize you are, going from a transitional housing to a, you're going to be placed. And that you qualify for $10,000 for RAFT, but, you don't really owe that much money, but they tell you to, okay, fill out the application, and then you start getting these harassment knocks on your door and random people and transportation issues and vandalizing of your car, and your gas tank gets punctured. Your tires are flat every other day. You have a hard time making ends meet, and you're like wondering what the hell is going on. And you're so busy, trying to get everything together. You have goals for your family, and, you started a non-profit organization, and all of a sudden you have to call the police. Because, first of all, they actually attacked your son right in front of your steps. But that's not the end of the story. It just gets better. Your gas tank is punctured. You have to call the tow truck. They're demanding you to move the car out of the property. And nobody's actually trying to investigate this woman's gas tank got punctured. They, at this point, they receive the RAF money, and you're like, oh my God, my kid doesn't have proper transportation. I have to pay for an Uber. And from his school, from the house to his school to back to the house, and then from the house to the school. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I have to go bring him to my sister's licensed daycare. I have to call another Uber to pick him up to then drive us to daycare. And, you spend $100 that day. You're wondering what's going on. I worked for the state for 12 years under a different umbrella, and I also worked 30 years for DDS and DMH. So, I did work with families and children, and I visited families. I also attended IEPs, and I'm wondering what is wrong with this picture. My kid cannot get proper transportation. And I had beautiful transportation. When I left there, I was working with Mass Advocate. I had all kinds of services. I had social workers that were working with me, and I had social workers for me and the kids. And all of a sudden, you're wondering what is going on. You can't even keep up. You start to forget what the hell is going on from one day to another because these people are ambushing you. DCF is at my doorstep. I don't even know why they're here. There's nothing wrong here. And the lady says, I'm going to give you a gift card. She never sees you again. She calls you only by the phone. And she's in a different location. Bradford? What do you mean, Bradford? Bradford, I thought DCF was Family and Children Services in Amesbury. What's going on with this picture? And you can't even keep up because you're exhausted. You can't go to the bathroom properly. You can't eat. And your kids, you have 2 schools after you. And on top of that, you're dealing with the knocks at the door from the neighbors telling you that a girl died there, and you're trying to look up the obituary. Oh, no, there's no kid. Is this person okay? Is there something wrong with them? Are they, disclosing that they committed a crime? How am I supposed? And then you have Friday comes and you are hearing the music, pum, 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 and they set the tables right next to your porch, and all of a sudden you hear kids and you hear bottles of beer in the yard and people running and people screaming, and you're freaking out, and there's this scent of chemical coming into your apartment. You start to freak out from all this stuff coming into your apartment. You're like, well, what am I going to do? I have to send a message to the management office. I'm going crazy here. This is driving me, I'm starting to develop more PTSD. But, let me just reach out to the program that I was at before here. Maybe they can give me some resources. Maybe they can advise me on what to do. No luck whatsoever. And these people on and on and on, daily. The worker leaves some family and children's and says, this is your neighbors calling because you are new in the block. And, great, that's a welcome. Am I supposed to be, are you going to do anything to help me? That's like basically harassment. These people are harassing me. They're calling you on a daily basis to report what? Noise complaint? I have no time for myself, dealing with 2 children with full IEPs, and I can't even keep up. Lack of sleep, no appetite, dropped 30 pounds. I don't know. All of a sudden, I get hit with a court order. Lady, you have been served. They're a restraining order. For what? I haven't even been here 2 months. What do you mean? Go to court, do what the judge says. The judge says, so-and-so brought you here for a restraining order. I'm like, I don't even know these 2 women in the courtroom. I don't know them. I've never met them. Don't know who they are. He says, don't call the police again. Okay, I won't call the police, Your Honor. I have 2 children with disabilities. I need to leave. I don't have time for this. Am I free to go? You are free to go. The woman stays there talking about her parties. Her, Epstein parties. Oh my God, Epstein parties. I apologize, Your Honor, for calling the police. I will not call the police again. And I walk out. I report to the management office. I don't have they just dismissed the case. They didn't give me a restraining order. Well, good. Thank God they didn't give you a restraining order. I keep getting the knocks on the door. Here I am, sitting in my car. They used that on my eviction for a reason to file against me for cause. The woman supposedly had a restraining order against me. I go to court, try to fight the eviction, March 6th of 2026. Guess what the magistrate clerk said? Why are you charging them with false reports, crime report? And why are you charging them with stalking? I said, I didn't charge them with that. Your clerk's office did. The woman got off on, these are very heavy. I don't know. I don't even know. Too much of a charge in her eyes, including that these people added more information to their stalking behavior, crime report, false report. She said, well, I advise you, and I cannot advise you, but you should go to housing court and go after the landlord. Okay, all right. So basically, HUD quality assurance says go to the local police and report wiretapping and all these other things that went on when you lived there. And basically, nobody wants to charge these people with stalking behavior for surveillancing illegally, which was documented in police reports. It was also documented in notes for services that were being provided for my family, which were disclosed as well, because this woman adds that she's been living there for 28 years. She has 5 children. She cannot leave the house. She needs accommodations. And basically, she reports that they used a video that her daughter, who is 6 years old, recorded, stating that it was me yelling obscenities at my kids and my kiddos. And I never saw the video. The video supposedly statement, because they never saw the video. They never were able to see the video. This woman says that the Family and Children Department got a hold of her. They were in contact with her. They were in contact with the housing attorneys. They were in contact with the management office. And basically after that, my son was taken. And my case was closed at the time that he was removed. No case was open until a week before. No court order was given. And this woman leaves the courtroom without being charged or anything. She's still walking. And I'm still evicted. I have continued to, follow with the court order that was granted to me to have access to be able to, at the time he was removed, I was not aware of where he will be transitioned. They didn't tell me where he would be transitioned. On the day of, 2 police officers and 2 supposed DCF workers showed up to my apartment. Briefly stated, show me a document that I never received copies of. And basically, he was removed. And then I gathered information and evidence. And on the day off, they actually called the police from outside of my household and stated that a black Yukon vehicle was picking him up and that he was placed in room 109, wherever that is, by the statement was received from the Haverhill police. Unfortunately, it's been years trying to get this case looked at. And I still have contact with him because I am granted. I am able to see him. Unfortunately, everything seemed to be done illegally, for what I can see from my point of view. I'm not sure from other people's point of views, and basically haven't been able to get the police to properly investigate the whole case. But I'm sure I'm not the only one out there facing homelessness and eviction and custody trials. And my heart goes out to those people because there's a lot of stuff going on, people impersonating people, including impersonating police officers, DCF workers, social workers, anything that they can because they think they can mess with people's lives and tamper with people's environments and get away with it. And unfortunately, it has been done. I've seen it happen. I pray to God. I thank church every single day. And I, try to have peace in my heart. And I try to do the right thing for my son, even though it was done the way it happened. I pray to God, and I have to believe what they have shared with me and what I see. And, I'm able to receive pictures, and he's in a good place that I can see. And I am, able to cooperate with the whole situation. And, I wouldn't ask for anything more for my son because he does deserve a brighter future. But, the fact that this case and other cases are, basically this country seems to be, makes $1, a dime out of everything. And, unfortunately, I worked in the field and I never had to separate families. I always kept them united. And I'm not sure. It's uncertain for the future. In my eyes, how everything is evolving for families and children, and for anyone that actually loses a home because somebody's plotting against them. And I pray to God that He gives me, understanding and be able to seal the deal and move on, which is, be able to overturn my eviction, which was wrongful. And it was, there was language about discrimination, disabilities disclosed on a public record, which it's illegal in this country. And that's it for me today. And I will be posting more and more from here.